Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to continue reaching into the old because we are going to check out some more older figures. In fact, I've actually had many requests recently for older figures since I began reviewing a few of the Hasbro figures. There definitely seems to be a strong desire to see reviews of a lot of figures that maybe never really had the chance to be reviewed, or you know, like a lot of this stuff came out before dinosaur YouTube channels were a thing, so we don't really have many reviews of a lot of this stuff. So I'm going to actually continue, I think, of course, reviewing all the new stuff, but reviewing a lot of older stuff and kind of mixing it in. And this time I'm going to go a different route, definitely not Jurassic World, as this time we've got Disney's Dinosaur. And we're going to take a look at two figures here that are from this line. Obviously, they are the same sculpt, just different versions of each other here. We've got ourselves the Mattel Disney's Dinosaur Veloci-kicker. And basically what you have here are two different versions of a Velociraptor, two different color variants. Very much so not an accurate Velociraptor, but not really much about Disney's Dinosaur was accurate, so we can just move on from that. But when it comes to screen accuracy, you know, for the most part, I think they kind of captured the likeness. And it's also just generally fun to see an older Mattel release. You know, Mattel creating dinosaurs way before the Jurassic World line. At this point, we're so familiar with the Jurassic World line being associated with Mattel, it is cool to see other dinosaur figures that were created by them previously. So, without further ado, let's jump to a closer look and check both of these out from there. So we will begin with the bluish version, and one thing that you'll notice right away, and this is not just with these Raptor figures, you'll find this on pretty much all of the figures in this line, if I recall correctly, is they have this very cool metallic look to them. You know, it's kind of 50-50 for me. I sort of really like it and sort of don't, because I don't expect dinosaurs to actually look metallic, but at the same time, you can't dare deny that that figure really stands out because of the metallic colors on it. But as far as the sculpt goes, again, you can see Mattel was actually pretty decent at sculpting dinosaurs way back then. Again, when this figure released, the skin texture, although, you know, kind of muted in a few areas, doesn't look half bad at all. You've got a good bit of color here. You've got some browns in the face. You have the blues that kind of run up here. You can see the nostrils sculpted out. The eyes are a glass eye sort of a gimmick, and again, as you can see, you can't really see it too well, similar to the Hammond Collection figures today, but these are also light-up eyes, so that's probably why. I know I have seen kind of like a pupil in there, but it's just really hard to see it right now. You do have an articulated jaw, which you can see. The inside of the mouth of the figure doesn't really have much in the way of detail going on. Let's get a look down here. Yeah, not really. You can kind of see like it's painted out with a, looks like a purplish tone, but not really much in the way of detail going on in there. You can see the teeth are sculpted okay though, and they're painted with a white tone. Nothing too spectacular going on, but obviously they're, you know, decent looking. As you move back through the course of the head, you have kind of like some crests up here on the top of the head of the dinosaur. And as you lead back here into the neck, you start to pick up a striping effect, and obviously the blue becomes a whole lot more intense as you lead back into the neck. And again, it's kind of almost hard to see because of how shiny that paintwork is, but the skin texture is actually really quite nicely done. I don't know if I have any extras of these guys. I'll have to take a look, because I wouldn't mind giving these guys a repaint maybe at some point, because, or at the very least just one, because the detail I think is so nice that it honestly deserves a paint job that can actually bring the detail out. You can see the throat here on the underside, also more of that brownish tone that does run along the underside of the dinosaur. It looks like you would have neck articulation for the Raptor, but doesn't seem like it moves at all, so I guess maybe you don't. As you move down, you can see kind of like some creasing as you lead down into the arms. The arms are articulated, but I think this arm kind of moves with the action feature, so we'll just move this one, as you can see, again, forward and back. Articulation pretty nicely, pretty smoothly. And you can also see one thing we don't get often from Mattel nowadays is we had painted fingernails, painted finger claws for this Raptor, which is really nice. As you lead down into the arm, you can see some nice muscle definition there, and we obviously transition to a brown leading down. We've got some scoots running down the fingers, and the fingers are kind of held in almost like a menacing sort of a way, which is pretty cool. As you lead back into the stomach region, you see a whole lot of skin wrinkling and skin creasing going on as you lead to the lower
lower part of the stomach for sure. As you lead back up, again, the skin texture does look really quite nice. You have some more striping as you lead along. That actually leads the entire way through the figure. We've got a button here for the action feature, which we are not going to press quite yet. As you lead back, again, you can see the spinal column here on the top. More absolutely awesome looking skin texture, honestly. For the age of this figure, it is very impressive when it comes to the fine detail. Moving down into the thigh, again, you can see more muscle definition, as well as a nice calf muscle. We've got the knee in the front of the leg, and then you'll lead down into the foot sculpt, and the foot sculpt looks okay. Pretty nicely sculpted toes. The sickle claw, for some reason, faces out to the side. I don't remember if that's how it was in the film, but interesting that it does that. Again, we've got the nails painted with a darker variation of a gray, and look at that. The dew claw was actually painted. Man, I don't know what happened here, but Mattel apparently used to do a better job on their paint apps than they do nowadays. But obviously you can also see, again, it transitions to a brown just like we saw in the arms, and we do have leg articulation forward and back pretty nicely, pretty smoothly. As you lead out here, you can see we've got another area here where the tail connects, and it looks like we would have articulation, but yet again, we do not. But that is actually for a different reason, because as you lead out into the tail is actually a rubber, also similar to the Hammond collection figures of today, and you can pose and articulate the tail. So we've got a wire tail out here, which is honestly, I would say, almost a little bit before the figure's time, although I guess not technically, because the Resource figures and stuff had posable, wire tails back in the day as well. But it's just surprising to see things like that from way back then. But again, the skin texture looks really good, and as you can see, we actually had paintwork that ran the entire way out through the tail. So talk about a breath of fresh air when it comes to a Mattel figure, and the brown actually runs the entire way out through the length of the tail as well. Interesting stuff we've got going on here on the underside of the foot. I don't really recall what that's all about. It's been quite some time since I've actually taken a look at these figures, and I didn't collect them when they had initially come out, so it's something that I've acquired probably over the last like 5-10 years or so. But again, it is a really cool Raptor. When it comes to the Disney's Dinosaur version, it's pretty darn cool. And then there's also this version, again, the different color variant, as we have more of like a pinkish version. But here you can see the eyes, I think, a little bit better than we could with the other one. The other eyes were really dark. You can kind of make out the fine detail of the eyes a little bit there. But you can also see that sculpt-wise, it's definitely the same figure. I don't notice any difference when it comes to the sculpt. We have all the same type of paint, basically, as far as like the patterning. We've got the nails, again, painted out with the gray, and yes, the dew claw as well. And we have that same patterning again moving down, as we have a striping effect that picks up there in the neck and runs all the way out here through the course of the entire figure, all the way out onto the tail. We again have that wire tail, just like we had with the other one. We also have the same articulation, again with the arms and legs, though I did notice that this arm actually articulates freely, whereas the other one has the arm kind of attached to the action feature. Now, I don't know if maybe these were different releases, but outside of that, I've noticed, and of course the coloration, they are definitely the same figure. And again, we have the same thing going on, except this time we have more of like a darker variation of a metallic pink for the figure, rather than the bluish tones we had seen on the other one. But I do like the fact that they have two different versions of this out, because it's really fun to have, more than one version of this Raptor kind of helping you to create a pack of these Raptors. But overall, I would honestly say I think I like this one a little bit better than the other one, but they're both pretty darn fun.
So after doing some very quick research, I've learned that the blue version is the Veloci-kicker, the pink version is the Velociraptor, I think anyway. So that explains why there is a little bit of difference. Now this one is going to make some noise, but it doesn't do so great when it comes to the noises nowadays. You'll hear it sounds very bad, but you'll notice the arm moving. Actually, everything seems to move with this one. I didn't even realize the legs go with it as well. And clearly the noises aren't doing so well. I don't know if maybe the batteries are dying or not, but I did just install some fresh batteries on this one, so that'll give us a better chance to actually hear the noises and stuff. Let's go ahead and give that a shot. Oh, look at that. So they do all move, actually. So they do have the same action feature. It's weird that this one allows me to freely articulate the arm, whereas the other one gives me kind of a hard time. But let's go ahead and do the action feature. And now the batteries are not working. I literally just installed these, and somehow it's not working already. I don't know why. So I guess I've got to look into that here quickly, and we'll bring it back and try to get it to work. So we've got it working now. We'll check out the noises and everything. Seems to get stuck a little bit once in a while. I really like some of the noises, very bird-like. Not so much that time, but... So as you can see, the eyes light up, the arms move, the legs move, and the jaw snaps. This one's not working perfectly, but at least the light-up feature and everything seems to be working pretty nicely. As far as the size goes, lengthwise, you were looking at about 8 1/4 inches or 21 centimeters. And then for a height, about just a hair, honestly, just a hair under 3 3/4 inches or around 9 1/2 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A Human Being next to our Veloci-fighter, I believe this one is. And you can see again that they are pretty decently sized, but by no means are they large. Just a little bit larger, I would say, than your average kind of Attack Pack, Danger Pack type figure. And now to give you a comparison that I feel like should be the only other one we'll really need, because this definitely helps to give you a good idea of a current size of the figure. Like in this day and age, this is the figure you would probably want to go to. You've got a Mattel Velociraptor, again from the Jurassic World line, next to the Mattel Velociraptor from the Disney's Dinosaur line, and you can very clearly see they're pretty much the same size. Maybe a little bit more length on the part of the Disney's Dinosaur version, but overall they're very, very similar in size. So hopefully that should help to give you a good idea of the fact that this figure is right there in the same similar size range as your average Mattel Jurassic World Velociraptor. So this Mattel Disney's Dinosaur Veloci-kicker and Veloci-fighter are pretty cool figures, honestly. I think they're a lot nicer than many people give them credit for. They're the type of figure you don't hear too many people talk about all that often, but honestly, for the time when these were made, they're really nicely done. Sculpt-wise, they do sport some very impressive detail, which, considering it's a Mattel figure, that's not surprising. Even back in the Disney's dinosaur age, Mattel was still providing absolutely excellent sculpts on their figures, and definitely nicely done. Obviously, not perfectly screen accurate. I think the Raptors in the film are a little bit thinner than you see here with these ones. These ones just have a little bit of a chubby kind of a look to them compared to the way they look in the film, but they're still pretty nicely done, especially when it comes to the fine detail, and the overall likeness isn't too bad, especially when it comes to toy form. On top of that, we have some nice paintwork for the figures. Again, very cool tones of color for both. You know, normally I wouldn't be a huge fan of metallic tones on figures, and in some cases I feel like maybe I won't like it through the course of the line, but somehow it works really nicely with these Raptors, and both, again, sport metallic tones, just different colors, as one has a blue, one has more of like a pinkish sort of a tone. The only difference other than that color-wise between the two, which I didn't mention earlier, is the fact that on the blue one, the blue actually runs up into the snout, whereas on the pinker one, it stops before it reaches the snout. So a little bit of difference when it comes to the coloration as far as that goes. But it is so nice to see a fully painted figure from Mattel with this release, because you've got painted nails, and yes, even the dew claw has paint, as well as paint from head to tail, which is also really nice. So it shows us that Mattel can do it. I just wish they would do that more often. But on top of that, you've got some decent articulation, nothing overly amazing, but you also have a pretty fun action feature. Again, it's not the greatest action feature in the world, but considering it's a Raptor, it makes sense, as well as light up eyes and a pretty cool amount of sound effects. Not a massive amount, there's only like, I think 2 or 3, but they were very nicely done and kind of bird-like in some of them, which I really, really do like. So overall, these figures are pretty darn cool, and definitely figures worth searching out if you do not already have them in your collection, especially if you are a fan of Disney's Dinosaur. So your best bet would probably be to search eBay or Mercari for these guys. I don't know for sure how easily available they are nowadays. I do seem to find them fairly often, and I don't think that they're all that expensive, so you shouldn't have too hard of a time getting a hold of some of these to add to your collection. So make sure you do that if you are interested, and of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.